Hey, all you literary legends and luminaries, I'm Julie, and welcome to another episode of Booksmart. Today, we're going back in time to 1999 with a book by Ross Bennis called 1999, the year low culture conquered America and kickstarted our bizarre times. Let's see. In 1999, I just married. I had just graduated college and enrolled in a master's degree program in education, which I would never advise doing. If you're not interested into going into administration as a teacher, you will never get paid sufficiently for your higher degree, so don't do it. After I got married, we got this little sweetheart. We named her Ginger. My favorite show was Freaks and Geeks, which premiered in September. I desperately wanted to watch Dawson's Creek, but we didn't get the CW. I would finally watch it the following year, and as much as I loved it, I never believed that high school students would talk using such an extensive vocabulary. But thanks to Dawson's Creek, diatribe is now a word I use regularly. I wanted to write plots like that of American Beauty and Girl Interrupted, and still have not sat through The Matrix. I know, it's a classic. One of these days I'll watch it. I bought CDs of the Goo Goo Dolls, Jewel, and Sarah McLachlan, and I wanted Gwyneth Paltrow's pink dress that she wore at the Oscars for Shakespeare in Love, even though most said it was too pink. Is there such a thing? 1999 was filled with fond memories and many cringe-worthy moments before cringe-worthy was even a trendy word. What Ross Bennis has done with 1999 is capture 6 different low-cultured categories of pop culture and shows how those ignited what has become of our society now. Let me read you a paragraph of the introduction, for Bennis has summarized the goal of his book. And he says this. It is the recent past on which people draw most for historical analogies and predictions and their knowledge, wrote historian John Tosh. Or to cite a line from the December 1999 movie Magnolia, we may be through with the past, but the past ain't through with us. In these pages, you will learn how late 90s low culture illustrates people's beliefs, reflects tactics of powerful institutions, and teaches us how to live. You'll witness how trashy entertainment from a quarter century ago shapes the tumultuous world we inhabit. And he does just that in his book. So for this book review, I'll address each of the 6 areas Bennis discusses. The introduction was a little textbooky for my taste, but it introduces the concepts within the book. Bennis tells the reader that the chapters can be read in any order. Each chapter is written as though it can be read in isolation for those wanting to research certain topics. So at times there is some slight repeating of main ideas. Chapter 1 begins with a bang with none other than the Jerry Springer Show. I thought about showing a clip, but I just couldn't do it. I admit to watching Jerry Springer back in the day. I even remember my parents turning it over there occasionally when we visited. But how did people watch it repeatedly and not think it was staged? The Jerry Springer Show was the kind of thing you watched a half dozen times and then you had kind of seen it all. It lost its shock value and luster. I don't know how it lasted so long. It got old fast and the conflicts looked forced and inauthentic. According to Bennis, in part due to the Jerry Springer Show, scandalous news stories were no longer reserved for tabloids. Seemingly reputable news programs like CNN or the major networks now reported such tawdry stories. Everyone figured out that the more drama, the more viewers. And the likes of Jerry Springer meant people would watch those god-awful housewives shows, the ridiculously dramatic lives of teen moms, not to mention sister wives, little people, families with multiples, and a raging dance teacher, and that's just to name a few. And now in the age of social media, we're all starring in our own reality show. And here is what Bennis says about that in connecting it to today. So, let's see. Why watch nobodies fight about their family drama on a talk show when you can watch a U.S. senator try to fist fight the Teamsters president during a hearing instead? Why watch any of this nonsense unfold on TV when people you personally know will confess salacious details about their lives while inviting you to comment about it on X, Twitter, TikTok, WhatsApp, and YouTube? Some use their social media accounts to portray drama where it doesn't exist by filming people unwittingly to portray false controversies for clout. Passengers on a 9-month-long cruise didn't plan on becoming stars on a TikTok trend, but that's what happened when influencers on board incessantly posted videos. Maybe this is our own reality TV show, one of the influencers said, but better. Thanks to Jerry Springer and smartphones, we're all talk show guests and reality stars seeking attention through confession, equating entertainment with voyeurism. That about sums it up. Now, let me switch gears and talk about Oprah for a second. I love these kinds of research books that address pop culture because I always learn new things, even when I thought I knew about the topic being written. Some of this I knew about Oprah, but some of it, when written in this context, shines a different light on Oprah's influence. And so let me read you this about Oprah. And I think Oprah is a positive influence, but, well, just listen to this. As a charismatic figure with a history of demonstrating empathy, giving large charitable donations, and standing up for free speech, Oprah Winfrey became famous through talent and ambition. She's considered one of the greatest icons in television history. However, Oprah pushed ridiculous concepts that may have proved more harmful than anything Jerry Springer broadcasted. She made Dr. Oz the most famous doctor in America, even though fewer than half of Oz's recommendations are backed by medical evidence. She made Dr. Phil a famous enough psychologist that he could license his image to sell fraudulent weight loss supplements, which spawned legal settlements over their false advertising. She encouraged viewers to adopt New Age philosophies that don't align with reality. She presented the most unscrupulous actors in the satanic panic as authentic whistleblowers and victims without pushback. She gave credence to figureheads who promote the discredited claim that vaccines cause autism. She promoted the fairy tale idea that if you want something to happen, all you have to do is wish for it to come true. Perhaps more than any other single America, wrote Kurt Anderson, founder of the irreverent 1990s magazine Spy, she is responsible for giving national platforms and legitimacy to all sorts of magical thinking, from pseudo-scientific to purely mystical, fantasies about extraterrestrials, paranormal experience, satanic cults, and more. For 3 decades, she has had a major role in encouraging Americans to abandon reason and science in favor of the wishful and imaginary. No wonder Donald Trump wanted Oprah as his running mate during his 1999 presidential run.
You're fired.
That's a lot. So where did all this bring us other than what he just said about Oprah? Well, listen to this, which is key to our state of the world right now. And this is quite a lot to digest. Springer told an interviewer, when people say to me, where do you find these guests? I say they are us. Facebook and X feed suggest Springer's assertion still holds up. Users bring attention to their profiles by starting trivial fights on subjects they know nothing about. Hyperbolic arguments generate more engagement, which drives the algorithm to serve you more contentious posts because social media companies know most people can't resist petty drama. Again, most people can't resist petty drama. Does that sound like people you know? Maybe even yourself. If you've watched Booksmart before, you know I avoid political books and political topics because I think both sides have gone too extreme and have lost all common sense. I also wonder how politics have lost all sense of decorum and professionalism. Why do professional, educated people act like guests on this Jerry Springer show? I have wondered that the last couple of years, that and why people are putting up flags in their front yards with profanity all over them, it's just so tacky. Well, Bennis has answered my question, drawing some intriguing parallels between reality shows and our current political climate, including President Trump. So let me just read you this and ask yourself if you see parallels. And now I'm going to skip some chunks in the middle. So I've kind of cut it down just so you're aware that I'm not reading it from start to finish. Through his outsized personality and supreme ability to command attention, Trump seized the political moment by capitalizing on Americans' preference for entertainment over substance. Reality TV paved the way so that you no longer had to be talented to become famous. Trump took that concept a step further. He proved that you could hold the highest office without any experience building coalitions, crafting legislation, or negotiating with foreign leaders. What you really needed was the ability to keep people watching. Trump turned presidential debates into shouting matches seen on Jerry Springer, Ricky Lake, and Maury. The networks ate it up. Others have noted the Trump administration parallels to reality TV and daytime talk shows. None other than Geraldo Rivera, reality TV forerunner and Celebrity Apprentice runner-up, 7th installment, stated that with Donald Trump as president, every day is a reality show. Trump eliminated cabinet members at a rate that rivaled Simon Cowell's ability to send aspiring singers home in tears. He teased Supreme Court picks on Twitter as if he were the Bachelor choosing dating partners. He glanced at the sun during a solar eclipse, theoretically risking blindness to display cluelessness akin to Jessica Simpson confusing chicken and tuna. He survived impeachments like the mole contestant staving off elimination. He forged and broke alliances faster than Survivor competitors. When he suffered a series of legal defeats, he brought in cameras to turn court cases into campaign ads resembling Judge Judy promos. He instructed camera operators to film him as if they were shooting The Apprentice. The most charitable thing that can be said about Trump's first term ending with a deadly attempted coup at the Capitol is that his administration's season finale became can't-miss TV. The episodes that followed this cliffhanger continue to be unpredictable. You have to admit, no matter what side of the political line you are on, Bennis makes some striking comparisons there that are difficult to refute. And all of what I just did was all on the Jerry Springer chapter. So let's switch to a lighter topic. Let's deal with these little guys. I gave all my other ones away, even my Peace Bear, which might have been worth something according to my online search. I saved the Husky, this guy, because his name was Nanook. The Lost Boys was one of my favorite movies, and the Husky on the Lost Boys was named Nanook, so I had to keep it. I'm not sure I ever quite understood the Beanie Baby phase, how adults went crazy for them, thinking they would be worth something someday. As a child, I collected stuffed animals. Everyone gave me stuffed animals for my birthday, for Christmas, and I could always count on Aunt Bunny at Easter. One would have thought someone like me would have gone crazy for Beanie Babies, but I really didn't. Maybe I'd grown out of stuffed animals by then. Even for my wedding showers, people gave me Beanie Babies. It was really annoying, especially the bears, which I liked the least. I viewed Beanie Babies as more the kind of gift that people bought when they didn't want to put much thought into it. I don't know. My mom even ended up with Beanie Babies as gifts. Here's how Bennis summarizes the Beanie Baby and Pokemon crazes of the 1990s. Whether it's nostalgic stuffed animal crazes, modern tech-driven scams, or the way our macro economy operates, these concepts have something in common. They're beholden to Pokemon philosophy. In Pokemon, the main obligation is to consume, consume, consume. Consumption became the driving force of our economy. In January 1990, the national personal saving rate was in line with historical averages. By December 1999, it was cut in half. People saved less than 5% of their income. What did they do with the rest? They purchased stuff. Advertising has us chasing cars and clothes, working jobs we hate so we can buy shit we don't need, said Brad Pitt's Tyler Durden character in Fight Club, one of 1999's most esteemed movies. As Buckingham and Sefton Green wrote, "Gotta catch 'em all" could be interpreted not just as a form of anal compulsion, but also perhaps as a symptom of the capitalist drive toward possessive accumulation. We buy way too much. I did not partake in Pokemon, but I was aware of it. Bennis didn't really develop fast fashion or how much we are actually spending on junk, though, so I thought he could have taken this chapter even further than he does. He compares the likes of Beanie Babies to the dot-com bubble and NFTs. Chapter 3 is all about pro wrestling. I never understood pro wrestling. This was a lengthy chapter referring to a bunch of people and incidents I knew nothing about, and at times I didn't always see how some of the details connected to the bigger picture. I vaguely remember the drama of people finding out that pro wrestling was all staged, which seemed bizarre to me because it couldn't have been anything but staged from someone who only saw the commercials for it. But here's where the present day connection makes a lot of sense. And this is interesting how Bennis connects all of these together. He says, cable news is more like professional wrestling than professional wrestling used to be, Bischoff said. It's great narrative. There's almost always someone up there that you want to choke, and there's almost always someone up there that's saying what you believe in. So you're investing more emotion watching cable news than you get from watching wrestling because the promos are better. The love and loyalty versus the ones we despise, yeah, that describes about everyone in the last few years. And that line of what is real and what isn't, what is truth and what is fake, well, you know how well that plays into our current world. So here's what Bennis writes about truth, fiction, fake news, all of that stuff. Let's see. Okay, with each passing year, Jeremy Gordon wrote, more and more facets of popular culture become something like wrestling, a stage-managed reality in which scripted stories bleed freely into real events, with the blurry line between truth and untruth seeming to heighten, not lessen, the audience's addiction to the melodrama. So this correlates with Jerry Springer. We can't get enough of the drama, and so the media and politics are giving the people what they want. Maybe we should stop watching and liking and commenting on such stories. Maybe then politics will go back to the likes of C-SPAN, which is not a bad idea. If you are a pro wrestling fan, you will adore this chapter because there's a ton of info in it. Chapter 4 is about Insane Clown Posse, which terrified me, so I didn't follow them at all. But Bennis makes interesting connections between Insane Clown Posse's followers and that of religious followers. He describes all the end-of-the-world movies that came out around the same time. Bennis essentially concludes how loyal members can be, and that's true of any group that doesn't fit into the mainstream, which I think you can readily see today. Everyone wants to be that 1% that doesn't fit into mainstream society, and that in itself, no matter what the 1% group is that doesn't align with the rest of the population, is always trending on social media, which makes more people follow. Chapter 5 deals with the explosion of internet porn. This chapter was fascinating as Bennis described the birth of huge corporations where one company owns newspapers, magazines, radio stations, cable news, and websites. That's why tabloid stories were everywhere, on the evening news and in hoity-toity newspapers. Bennis brings up the Pam Anderson, Tommy Lee sex tape, how every single news outlet was reporting on it. It wasn't just that sex sells, but the onslaught of coverage was simply because the same companies owned so many facets of the media. And with all that media comes commercials. Bennis brings up Viagra and briefly discusses how pharmaceutical companies sell directly to consumers, which started in 1997. Viagra's first full year on the market was, you guessed it, 1999. He closes this idea with this statement. But what's as true today as it was in 1999 is that the way our culture views bodily dysfunction is based on parameters set by drug companies whose main interest is pushing as many pills as possible. Let that sink in for a second. Bennis has many of these whopper statements throughout this book, and that makes you pause and assess how society functions today. And the last idea Bennis discusses in 1999 is the influence of video games and how they became a cultural powerhouse. While I loved Pac-Man and Q*bert, I struggled with these new kinds of games. My husband got me to play Resident Evil, and it was fun at first, but I just didn't have it in me to play those types of games. This was my favorite video game. Crash Bandicoot. I didn't want to roam around a world, carry guns, purchase stuff, and I certainly didn't want to interact with other players that I wasn't sitting with. But I understand the draw of them. Many of my college friends love them. My husband did, and my son adored Minecraft. So I get it, even if I'm still stuck in my Crash Bandicoot days. Once again, Bennis brings up intriguing ideas that when white kids are involved in shootings, the media tries to explain it and blame it on video games and Marilyn Manson, but don't do so when the shooter isn't white. I love how Bennis showcases the hypocritical politicians and how incorrect they are with the facts when stating the dangers of video games. There's a ton of profound research in this chapter, like playing video games has no connection with aggression. This chapter was excellent, and if you need research about video games in society, you need to check out this book. And yes, there are 70 pages at the back of the book that shows Bennis's research and notes and where all the information came from. He has done his homework. Overall, 1999 was a fun, nostalgic read that held much more insight into our current times than I would have ever imagined. It's a must-read for anyone who lived through 1999, but it's also a must-read for anyone wanting to understand our current world a little bit better. How in the world did we get here? Bennis does an excellent job at showcasing that through his 6 main points. Yes, maybe you could have taken 6 key low-culture moments from 1979 or 1989 and traced their impact on today's world. Bennis provides such chronology throughout the book with each of his points. He shows the history of how stuff like The Jerry Springer Show became popular and then traces a time between 1999 and 2024 and how we ended up where we did. But just because we could do the same with 1969 or 1989 doesn't lessen the message or impact of 1999, the book and the year. Beanie Babies left their mark, as did pro wrestling and, of course, video games. Bennis chose unique topics and proved his point as he developed each one. They all did kickstart our bizarre times. Thanks for watching. As always, my goal at Booksmart is to get a little bit smarter, one book at a time.